You've probably heard people say coffee is bad for you. Then the next day, you hear it might actually fight cancer. So what's the truth? Let's break this down in a simple, practical way. Because the way coffee interacts with your body and specifically with cancer cells is actually far more interesting than most people realize. When you drink coffee, the first thing your body deals with is caffeine, but caffeine is not the real star when it comes to cancer research. It's the polyphenols, the antioxidants, and the compounds that form when coffee beans are roasted. These compounds influence inflammation, oxidative stress, and energy metabolism inside your cells. Now, cancer cells absolutely thrive in an environment of high inflammation and oxidative damage, so anything that helps push the body in the opposite direction becomes very relevant. One of the most fascinating things about coffee is how it affects something called AMPK. Think of AMPK as the cellular electricity manager. When AMPK is activated, it helps your cells clean up damaged components, reduce growth of abnormal cells, and improve energy efficiency. Many natural compounds activate AMPK: fasting, exercise, certain vegetables, and coffee happens to be one of them. When AMPK is triggered, cancer cells don't do very well because they rely heavily on disorganized, chaotic energy production. Coffee can help shift the balance back toward healthier cellular function. Another thing to understand is oxidative stress. This is basically rusting inside your body. Cancer cells love environments where oxidative stress is high because it gives them a chance to mutate faster and survive longer. Coffee contains antioxidants like chlorogenic acid that help neutralize some of this stress. Now, is coffee a magic bullet? No. But does it add another layer of support to your body's defense system? Absolutely. There's also something interesting about how coffee interacts with estrogen metabolism. Certain cancers are influenced by how your body breaks down hormones, especially estrogen. Coffee seems to help shift estrogen breakdown into a safer pathway for some people. Again, not a treatment, but a supportive influence that adds to the bigger picture of overall metabolic health. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. When you consume coffee without sugar, without flavored syrups, without all the additives, your insulin stays low. Cancer cells love sugar. They thrive on glucose. They practically feed on insulin spikes. When you drink coffee in its pure form, black or with a bit of cream, you're not feeding that cycle. In fact, coffee can slightly boost metabolic rate and increase the body's ability to use fat for fuel, which means less available sugar circulating for abnormal cells. But timing matters. If you're drinking coffee late at night, raising cortisol when you should be resting, you're working against yourself. Cortisol that stays high too long weakens the immune system, and your immune system is one of the most powerful tools you have for recognizing and eliminating unhealthy or damaged cells. Coffee early in the day tends to work with your natural rhythm. Coffee all day long does the opposite. There's also the type of coffee. Organic beans reduce your exposure to pesticides. And lighter roasts tend to contain more antioxidants, while darker roasts have fewer antioxidants but more of the compounds that activate AMPK. So it really depends on your body and your goals. For most people, a moderate amount, 1 to 2 cups, is where you get benefits without raising stress hormones too much. Something most people don't realize is that your liver plays a massive role here. Coffee has been shown to support liver detoxification pathways. A healthier liver means better removal of toxins, better hormone balance, and better metabolic control. And since cancer risk is strongly influenced by chronic inflammation and metabolic dysfunction, supporting the liver indirectly supports your entire system. But let me be extremely clear, coffee is not a cure. It isn't a standalone therapy. What it does is help create a healthier cellular environment, one that cancer cells don't thrive in. You still need nutrient-dense food, good sleep, low stress, exercise, and healthy blood sugar. Coffee is just one small, interesting tool that interacts with your biology in a way that many people overlook. If you're someone who gets jittery, anxious, or wired from coffee, that's a sign your adrenals are already under too much stress. In that case, green tea might be a better option because it has L-theanine, which calms the nervous system while still supporting metabolic health. But if you tolerate coffee well and you're drinking clean, well-sourced coffee, you're actually giving your body something that has been shown in study after study to support cellular protection. So the bottom line is simple. Coffee, when consumed intelligently, can help lower inflammation, support the liver, enhance cellular cleanup, and create an environment that makes it harder for abnormal cells to grow. It's not the whole answer, but it's a powerful addition to a healthy lifestyle. And the more we understand how these natural compounds interact with our biology, the more tools we have to take control of our health. Coffee is one of the most misunderstood beverages in the world. For decades, people have argued about whether it's good or bad, healthy or harmful, energizing or stressful to the body. But the one area where coffee becomes especially interesting is how it affects the internal environment where cancer cells either thrive or struggle to survive. And the truth is, coffee isn't just a drink, it's a complex blend of hundreds of biologically active compounds, each influencing your metabolism, inflammation, oxidative stress, and even hormones in very specific ways. To understand how coffee interacts with cancer biology, you first have to understand the environment in which a cancer cell grows. Cancer cells are not random, they follow patterns. They thrive in inflammation. They thrive in oxidative stress. They thrive when insulin is high and when sugar is freely available. They thrive when the immune system is weak. They thrive when detoxification is poor. And they thrive when the body is under long-term metabolic stress. Most people imagine cancer cells growing chaotically on their own, but in reality, they're heavily influenced by the surroundings. And coffee influences those surroundings far more than people realize. One of the biggest areas coffee affects is oxidative stress. Think of oxidative stress like rust inside your body, rust on your DNA, rust on your cell membranes, rust on your mitochondria. This rust is caused by unstable molecules called free radicals. Now, your body naturally handles free radicals through antioxidants, but when the amount of oxidative stress becomes too high due to poor diet, toxin stress, or metabolic dysfunction, your cells accumulate damage faster than they can repair it. That is the perfect environment for DNA mutations, and DNA mutations form the foundation of cancer development. This is where coffee plays a massive role. Coffee contains one of the highest concentrations of antioxidants of any common beverage. In fact, for many people, coffee is their number one dietary source of antioxidants. Not vegetables, not fruits, not supplements, but coffee. These antioxidants, especially chlorogenic acid, help neutralize free radicals before they attack your DNA. When you reduce oxidative stress, you reduce DNA damage. And when you reduce DNA damage, you reduce the chances of abnormal cell growth. Now, chlorogenic acid does more than just act as an antioxidant. It also influences glucose metabolism. Remember, cancer cells love sugar. They consume glucose at a much faster rate than normal cells. That's how they grow rapidly. When chlorogenic acid helps stabilize blood sugar, you're indirectly reducing the fuel available for abnormal cells. And that's another key point. Coffee is helpful only when it's black or mostly black. The moment you add sugar, flavored syrups, or sweetened creamers, you are feeding the very metabolic pattern that cancer loves. But it's not only chlorogenic acid that matters. Coffee contains compounds like caffeine and cowil, which are naturally occurring diterpenes. Research suggests these compounds may help promote enzymes in the body involved in detoxification. A healthier detoxification process directly reduces your body's exposure to harmful chemicals that can trigger mutations. These compounds help support phase-to-liver pathways, the pathways responsible for neutralizing and eliminating toxins from your body. Now let's talk about inflammation. Because inflammation is the other half of the cancer environment, chronic inflammation is like leaving a wound open inside the body that never heals. It damages cells, weakens the immune system, increases oxidative stress, disrupts hormone balance, and creates the perfect storm for unhealthy cells to grow. Coffee has been shown in moderation to help lower inflammatory markers in the body again. This effect is strongest when the coffee is consumed without sugar, because sugar is one of the biggest drivers of inflammation known to science. The interesting thing is that many people misunderstand caffeine. They think caffeine is the reason coffee has all these benefits. But caffeine is only one tiny part of the story. Most of coffee's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects come from compounds that have nothing to do with caffeine. Even decaffeinated coffee contains many of the same beneficial compounds, although in slightly lower amounts. That means even people who are caffeine sensitive can still benefit from coffee's protective effects as long as they choose a clean, well-sourced decaf option. Let's go deeper into how coffee changes the internal terrain where cancer cells try to live. Cancer cells don't just pop up, they grow in a supportive environment. But that environment becomes less supportive when oxidative stress goes down, inflammation goes down, detoxification improves, blood sugar stabilizes, and antioxidants increase. You are literally shifting the biological landscape. It's like draining a swamp so mosquitoes cannot breed. You're not killing the mosquitoes, you're removing their habitat. Coffee also affects your mitochondria, the energy factories of your cells. Mitochondria are where ATP, the energy currency of the cell, is made. When mitochondria become damaged, the cell switches to a more primitive form of energy production called glycolysis. Cancer cells love glycolysis because it's fast, inefficient, and chaotic. Coffee's antioxidants support mitochondrial health, allowing cells to stay in their natural energy-efficient mode. Another thing that often gets overlooked is how coffee affects the immune system indirectly. Your immune system constantly scans your body for damaged or abnormal cells. Even in healthy people, abnormal cells pop up all the time, but the immune system identifies them and removes them before they become a problem. Anything that weakens the immune system increases the risk of these abnormal cells surviving and multiplying. Coffee, when consumed in the right amount, can support immune health by reducing the burden of inflammation, supporting detoxification, and lowering oxidative stress. All of this frees up the immune system to do its job more effectively. However, balance matters. Too much coffee can increase cortisol, especially in people who are already stressed or fatigued. High cortisol over long periods can weaken the immune system. That means coffee's benefits depend heavily on timing and dosage. 1 or 2 cups early in the day tend to be beneficial. 4 to 6 cups throughout the day, especially late at night, can shift the benefits into stress territory. So the goal is not more coffee. The goal is intelligent coffee consumption. And here's another fascinating part. The roasting process itself creates compounds that influence cancer biology. When coffee beans are roasted, they form melanoidins, complex molecules that have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. These compounds further enhance the protective effect of coffee. Lighter roasts tend to preserve more chlorogenic acid, while darker roasts tend to have slightly higher levels of some AMPK activating compounds. So it really depends on what your body responds to. Now, it's important to address the misconception that coffee alone is some kind of treatment. It isn't. Coffee cannot replace a healthy diet, cannot replace sleep, cannot replace exercise, cannot replace nutrient-dense foods, and cannot replace a balanced metabolic lifestyle. But coffee can play an important supporting role, one that most people underestimate. When you put all these effects together, reduced oxidative stress, reduced inflammation, better detoxification, improved blood sugar control, mitochondrial support, and antioxidant protection, you're creating a biological environment that is harder for cancer cells to thrive in. It doesn't mean coffee kills cancer. It means coffee influences the cellular environment in a direction that favors health, stability, and cellular integrity. And this is why people who drink moderate amounts of clean coffee often experience benefits far beyond just energy. They feel clearer, their digestion improves, their metabolism functions better. Their inflammation drops, and without realizing it, they are shifting their body's internal biochemistry toward a more protective state. Coffee becomes even more fascinating when you start looking at how it affects something called AMPK inside your cells. Most people drink coffee for energy, for focus, or simply out of habit, but very few understand the deeper biological shift that takes place when those natural compounds enter your bloodstream. AMPK is one of the most important cellular switches in the entire human body. You can think of it as the control center for energy management. When AMPK gets activated, your cells start repairing themselves, cleaning out damaged components, and restoring balance. It's like flipping on the maintenance crew inside your body. And when AMPK is low, the opposite happens. Cells accumulate damage, metabolism slows down, waste builds up, and the environment becomes friendlier to abnormal growth. Cancer cells do not like AMPK. They prefer chaos, disorganization, and high levels of metabolic stress. They rely heavily on sugar and fast energy production because their mitochondria, the energy factories, are usually damaged. This forces them to use a primitive and inefficient form of energy production that depends on glucose. So when AMP is activated, it becomes harder for these cells to get the energy they need. Coffee is unique because it naturally stimulates AMPK, especially when consumed without sugar or excessive additives. That means you're not just getting caffeine, you're triggering a deeper metabolic adjustment inside your cells. Coffee also plays a role in how your body handles insulin. Cancer cells thrive in high insulin environments. They love sugar, but it's insulin that unlocks the door and pushes that sugar inside the cells. When insulin is high, cancer cells grow more rapidly. When insulin is low, they slow down. One of the reasons fasting is so beneficial for metabolic health is because it keeps insulin low. Coffee amplifies this effect when consumed correctly. Black coffee has a minimal impact on insulin, allowing your body to stay in a fat-burning, low-glucose state. This indirectly deprives abnormal cells of their main fuel source. The moment you add sugar or flavored creamers, you reverse this benefit. You feed the very system that cancer cells depend on. That's why the purity of coffee matters. Another area where coffee becomes incredibly important is hormone metabolism. Many people don't realize that certain cancers are influenced by how estrogen is broken down in the body. Estrogen itself isn't the problem. The problem lies in the metabolites, the byproducts that form as estrogen moves through the liver. Some of these byproducts are harmless, while others can stimulate abnormal growth if they accumulate. Coffee helps shift estrogen metabolism toward the safer pathway. This has been shown in both men and women, and this is important because estrogen is not just a female hormone. Men need it too, but it must be processed correctly. When estrogen is metabolized through the wrong pathway, the risk of abnormal cell growth increases. When it's metabolized through the safer pathway, the body maintains a healthier hormonal balance. Now let's bring AMPK back into the picture. AMPK activation doesn't just help with energy management, it plays a major role in how your cells recycle damaged parts. This process is called autophagy. It's basically your body's internal recycling system. Autophagy identifies faulty mitochondria, misfolded proteins, and damaged structures inside the cell and breaks them down so your body can rebuild new, healthy components. Cancer cells do not thrive in high autophagy environments because damaged cells are less likely to survive. Coffee helps stimulate mild autophagy, especially when combined with fasting or low-carb eating. Even 1 cup of coffee during a fast doesn't break the fast. It can actually deepen the benefits by encouraging your cells to clean themselves more effectively. This is one of the reasons people who drink moderate amounts of coffee often feel mentally sharper. It's not just the caffeine, it's the improved function of the mitochondria and the cleanup of old, damaged cellular parts. When your brain cells function better, everything improves: memory, focus, mood, reaction time, and long-term cognitive health. Cancer cells, on the other hand, depend on metabolic dysfunction. They cannot compete with strong, efficient mitochondria. So by enhancing mitochondrial health through AMPK activation, coffee indirectly creates an environment where abnormal cells have a harder time surviving. Coffee also influences something called the Berg effect. The Warburg effect is the metabolic pattern cancer cells depend on high glucose consumption with poor oxygen-based energy production. They operate in a very inefficient way, but that inefficiency allows them to grow quickly. Coffee helps shift the body's energy landscape away from glucose dependence and toward fat burning. When you drink coffee without sugar, your body releases fatty acids from stored fat, providing a clean fuel source. This reduces the availability of glucose. Cancer cells can't easily use fat for energy. They require glucose. So again, coffee doesn't attack the cells directly. It changes the environment, making it less suitable for them to grow. Something that's often overlooked is how coffee influences the nervous system. Stress hormones like cortisol can slow down AMPK activation. If your body is constantly in a stress state, AMPA stays low, inflammation stays high, and blood sugar becomes unstable. But in many people, a moderate amount of coffee actually reduces stress perception by enhancing dopamine and improving alertness. You feel more in control, more focused, and more capable of handling tasks. This reduces the mental fatigue that contributes to chronic stress. But the key word here is moderate. Too much coffee has the opposite effect. It raises cortisol, increases anxiety, disrupts sleep, and overwhelms the adrenal system. When cortisol is high for long periods, the immune system becomes weaker, and you need a healthy immune system to recognize abnormal cells and remove them. The timing of coffee is just as important as the amount. Drinking it early in the day works with your natural circadian rhythm. Drinking it late at night interferes with your sleep cycle, affecting melatonin production. Melatonin isn't just a sleep hormone, it's also a powerful antioxidant that plays a role in cellular repair, immune function, and nighttime detoxification. If coffee disrupts your sleep, you lose these benefits. And when the body cannot repair itself at night, abnormal cells get more opportunities to grow. So even though coffee activates AMPK, if you consume it too late, the net effect may shift in the wrong direction. Another fascinating area is how coffee interacts with gut bacteria. Your gut microbiome plays a huge role in immune function, inflammation, metabolic health, and even cancer risk. Coffee contains compounds that help increase beneficial bacteria in the gut. These bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that improve immune balance, reduce inflammation, and strengthen the intestinal barrier. A strong gut barrier prevents harmful substances from entering the bloodstream and triggering inflammation. Cancer cells thrive in inflamed bodies, not balanced ones. When your microbiome is healthy, your immune system becomes sharper at identifying abnormal cells. Coffee also enhances bile flow. This may not sound important, but bile helps break down fats, absorb fat-soluble vitamins, and remove toxins from the liver. When bile is flowing properly, your body eliminates harmful compounds more efficiently. When bile is sluggish, toxins can build up, and long-term toxin exposure increases the risk of DNA damage. So by supporting bile production, coffee indirectly improves detoxification and reduces the stress placed on the liver. And since the liver controls hormone metabolism, blood sugar, and detoxification, it plays a key role in preventing abnormal cell changes. One more area where coffee shines is its interaction with metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility means your body can easily switch between burning glucose and burning fat. People who depend heavily on glucose often struggle with fatigue, cravings, inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction. When metabolic flexibility is low, insulin resistance becomes common. And insulin resistance is strongly tied to cancer risk because it leads to chronically elevated insulin levels. Coffee helps shift your body toward fat metabolism, especially when you are following a low-sugar diet or practicing intermittent fasting. This makes your metabolism more stable and less favorable to cancer cell growth. Bringing all of this together, coffee doesn't work in isolation. It interacts with your biology on multiple levels: cellular cleanup, hormone balance, metabolic stability, detoxification, insulin regulation, gut health, and immune function. Each one of these areas plays a role in how cancer cells behave. Coffee supports the systems that keep your cells healthy and reduces the conditions that cancer cells prefer. It's not a treatment, but it's a powerful contributor to an internal environment that supports wellness and stability. Coffee's relationship with the liver is one of the most overlooked, yet most powerful, aspects of how it influences overall health and the environment in which cancer cells try to grow. Most people think of coffee as something that wakes them up, something that boosts mental performance, or something they drink socially. But beneath that simple cup is a deep interaction with one of the most important organs in your entire body, the liver. And when the liver is healthy, it becomes much harder for abnormal cells to take root, multiply, or spread. The liver is constantly filtering your blood. Every toxin, every chemical, every hormone, every medication, every food additive, everything passes through this organ. Not only does the liver filter out harmful compounds, but it also processes hormones, produces bile, helps regulate blood sugar, stores nutrients, and supports immune function. If the liver becomes sluggish, inflamed, or filled with fat, everything slows down. Metabolism slows, detoxification slows, hormone clearance slows, inflammation rises, oxidative stress increases, and your entire internal environment becomes more favorable for abnormal cellular changes. This is where coffee becomes so interesting. Coffee consistently shows strong support for liver function, especially when consumed regularly in moderate amounts. Because of its antioxidants and unique bioactive compounds, coffee helps the liver work more efficiently. It supports the detoxification pathways that break down harmful substances and escort them out of the body. It lowers liver fat, reduces inflammation in liver tissue, and improves enzyme levels that doctors often use to measure liver health. When your liver is functioning optimally, hormones like estrogen get broken down properly. Estrogen itself isn't the issue. Your body needs estrogen. The problem occurs when estrogen metabolites build up in the wrong pathways. These metabolites can increase inflammation, disrupt cellular communication, and in some cases stimulate abnormal growth in tissues that are sensitive to hormonal imbalances. Coffee helps shift estrogen metabolism toward a safer pathway. This means your body clears estrogen more efficiently and reduces the buildup of harmful byproducts. This becomes especially important when thinking about the internal environment cancer cells prefer. Estrogen imbalances, slow detoxification, and high inflammation contribute to an internal terrain that abnormal cells find favorable. But when your liver is clean, strong, and functioning the way it was designed, that terrain changes dramatically. Another area where coffee supports the liver is bile flow. Bile is essential for good digestion, nutrient absorption, and detoxification. It acts like a detergent, breaking down fats so they can be absorbed. But bile also helps carry toxins out of the body. If bile becomes thick, stagnant, or underproduced, toxins can build up in the liver. This contributes to inflammation, oxidative stress, and a slower metabolic rate. Coffee naturally stimulates bile flow. It helps the gallbladder release bile more efficiently, which means toxins move out of the body faster and fat digestion improves. Supporting bile flow does something else. It improves the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. These vitamins play a massive role in immune function, antioxidant protection, and cellular repair. Vitamin D, for example, helps regulate immune cells that identify and destroy abnormal cells. Vitamin E helps protect cell membranes from oxidative damage. Vitamin A helps regulate the growth and repair of epithelial tissue. So when coffee supports bile flow, you're not just improving digestion, you're enhancing the nutritional support that keeps cells healthy, balanced, and resistant to the type of damage that can lead to abnormal growth. Now, let's talk about the immune system. The immune system is your personal surveillance system. It constantly scans your body looking for anything that doesn't belong: bacteria, viruses, toxins, damaged cells, or abnormal cells. A strong immune system identifies and eliminates threats early. A weak immune system allows them to spread. The health of your immune system is heavily tied to the health of your liver. When the liver is overwhelmed, the immune system struggles to keep up. Coffee helps by reducing liver inflammation. Inflammation in the liver often comes from fatty liver, toxin buildup, sugar overload, or chronic stress. When inflammation in the liver decreases, immune cells are freed up to support other parts of the body. They become more efficient at identifying and destroying abnormal cells before they become a larger issue. Of course, there's another side to this: coffee's relationship with cortisol. Cortisol is your body's stress hormone. A small amount of cortisol is essential. It mobilizes energy, helps you wake up, and supports mental alertness. But chronic high cortisol weakens your immune system, disrupts sleep, and slows down liver function. Coffee elevates cortisol temporarily, especially in people who are caffeine sensitive. If you drink too much coffee or you drink it too late in the day, your cortisol can remain elevated for too long. This is where timing becomes critical. Drinking coffee early in the morning, preferably after you wake up naturally, works with your body's rhythm instead of against it. Drinking multiple cups throughout the day or consuming caffeine late at night interferes with sleep, and sleep is when your body does its deepest cellular repair. Melatonin, your sleep hormone, is also a powerful antioxidant. It helps protect your DNA, repair damaged cells, and keep abnormal cells from forming. When coffee interferes with sleep, you lose those nighttime repair cycles. The liver becomes less efficient at detoxification, oxidative stress increases, and the immune system weakens. So coffee has two sides. It can support liver function, detoxification, and metabolic health. But if overused, it can disrupt sleep, elevate stress hormones, and indirectly weaken the immune system. The benefits of coffee always depend on how it's used, not just what it contains. Another area worth exploring is coffee's impact on metabolic stress. Many abnormal cells thrive when blood sugar is unstable. They depend on glucose and insulin to fuel rapid growth. When your liver is overwhelmed by sugar, fructose, and processed carbohydrates, it begins converting the excess into fat. This leads to fatty liver. Fatty liver increases inflammation, slows detoxification, raises insulin resistance, and creates the perfect internal conditions for metabolic dysfunction. Coffee helps support blood sugar stability by improving insulin sensitivity. When insulin sensitivity improves, blood sugar enters the cells more efficiently and the body needs less insulin overall. Lower insulin means lower inflammation, better fat burning, and a metabolic environment that is far less attractive to abnormal cell growth. Again, this only applies when coffee is consumed without sugar. The moment you add sugar to coffee, you reverse these benefits and place more burden on the liver. Another fascinating aspect of coffee and liver health is its impact on fat metabolism. Coffee increases the release of fatty acids into the bloodstream for energy. This shift toward fat metabolism reduces the availability of glucose. Since abnormal cells rely heavily on glucose, this metabolic shift makes the environment less supportive for rapid, uncontrolled growth. Coffee also helps shrink fat accumulation in the liver. A healthy liver burns fat more efficiently and clears toxins more effectively. A fatty, inflamed liver does neither. Gut health also plays a major role in this. Your gut and your liver are connected through something called the portal vein direct pipeline. Whatever happens in the gut affects the liver. If harmful bacteria overgrow, or if the gut lining becomes weak, toxins and inflammatory compounds can leak into the bloodstream and overload the liver. Coffee supports beneficial gut bacteria, which produce compounds that strengthen the gut lining, balance immunity, and reduce inflammation. When the gut is healthy, the liver carries a lighter load. When the liver carries a lighter load, your immune system becomes stronger and more energized. So when we talk about coffee supporting liver health, we're not just talking about one organ. We're talking about an entire system: the gut, the immune system, the metabolic pathways, the detoxification system, and hormone balance. Every part of this system plays a role in the body's ability to recognize, prevent, and eliminate abnormal cells. The key is using coffee intelligently, 1 to 2 cups per day, early in the day, consumed without sugar, made from clean, well-sourced beans. That's where the benefits shine. That's where you get improved liver function, better metabolism, stronger detoxification pathways, and a more balanced internal environment. Coffee doesn't work like a drug targeting abnormal cells. It works like a supportive tool that helps your body maintain healthy internal conditions. And when the internal conditions are right, abnormal cells simply don't thrive.